The Vorath War Council met in their fortress on the edge of council space. The fortress was built into an asteroid, hidden from most scanners. Inside, the walls were decorated with weapons from 1,000 conquered worlds. War leader Kraz stood at the head of the long metal table. Around him sat his most trusted commanders. The mood in the room was dark. These were warriors who had never known defeat. They had crushed armies and destroyed fleets. They were used to being the strongest, the most feared. What they had seen at the council demonstration had shaken them to their core. Commander Thrak slammed his fist on the table. His armor made a loud clang. This changes everything. The humans have been hiding this ship for how long? 5 years? 10? And our intelligence never detected it? Our best analysis suggests 5 years, Kraz replied. His voice was cold and controlled, but there was anger underneath. They built it far beyond normal scanning range. In their outer solar system where no one thought to look. They were very clever about it. Sub-Commander Vrek stood up suddenly. He was younger than the others and more aggressive. Then we must strike now, before they can build more ships like this. That carrier is alone. Our fleet is strong. We have 200 warships. We could surround it and what? Kraz interrupted sharply. Did you not watch the demonstration? That single ship carries more firepower than our entire armada. It has 5,000 fighters. We have 800 across our whole fleet. It has weapons we have never seen before. Armor that adapts to attacks. Kraz leaned forward on the table. His voice became quieter but more intense. I have fought in 63 battles. I have conquered 17 worlds. I know when I am looking at something I cannot defeat. That human ship would destroy us. The room went silent. Hearing their war leader admit that was shocking. Vorath did not admit weakness. Vorath did not back down from fights, but Kraz was not stupid. He was a warrior, yes, but he was also smart, and he knew a losing battle when he saw one. He straightened up. I am going to contact the humans. We need to talk to them. We need to understand their intentions. Meanwhile, on the Aegis, Captain Jihoon was in his ready room reviewing reports. The ship was now stationed near Nexus Prime, its presence a constant reminder to the Council of Earth's new status. He was reading through diplomatic messages when his comm beeped. Communications Officer Borum Song's voice came through. Captain, we are receiving a transmission. It is from the Vorath flagship. War Leader Kraz wants to speak with you directly. Jihoon sat up straighter. This was interesting. The Vorath were the ones who had been threatening war just a few days ago. Now their leader wanted to talk. He walked onto the bridge. Commander Minji was at her station and her hand moved toward the weapons controls instinctively when she heard about the call. Captain? She asked. Her tone said she was ready for anything. Put him through, Jihoon ordered. He sat down in his captain's chair and made sure his uniform looked proper. The main view screen flickered and Kraz's image appeared. The massive warrior looked different than he had at the council. Less aggressive, more careful. He was still intimidating, but there was respect in his eyes now. Captain Park, I am War Leader Kraz of the Vorath Empire. Thank you for accepting my call. I know who you are, Jihoon replied calmly. What can I do for you, War Leader? Kraz seemed to choose his words carefully. You must understand, Captain. I am not used to being surprised. In my career, I have faced every type of enemy. I have seen every kind of weapon. But your demonstration was impressive. Very impressive, thank you. We worked hard on the Aegis. I'm sure you did. Kraz paused. I want to speak plainly with you, Captain. Your ship has changed the balance of power in this galaxy. The Council now sees Earth differently. My empire sees Earth differently. Everyone sees Earth differently. Good, that was the point. But you have one ship, Kraz continued. His eyes narrowed slightly. One very powerful ship, yes. But the galaxy is vast. There are many threats, many dangerous areas. One ship cannot be everywhere at once, Jihoon smiled slowly. Who said we only have one? The color drained from Kraz's face. For a warrior who had probably never shown fear in his life, his reaction was remarkable. His mouth opened slightly. His eyes went wide. You are bluffing, am I? Jihoon made a small gesture. Navigator Huna brought up a new display on a side screen. She transmitted it to Kraz's ship. The image showed the Sol system, Earth's home, but it was not a normal star map. It was marked with construction facilities, dozens of them. Hidden in Saturn's rings, built into the moons of Jupiter, buried in asteroids in the Kuiper Belt, and in each facility massive skeletal frames could be seen. The unmistakable shapes of more supercarriers in different stages of construction. Some were just beginning, with only the basic framework visible. Others were half-finished, with hull plating being attached. One looked almost complete. The data labels showed names: Athena, Yamato, Victoria, Beijing. Kraz stared at the image. He seemed unable to speak for a moment. When he finally found his voice, it was barely above a whisper. How many? How many are you building? The Aegis was our first, Jihoon said. His voice was quiet but firm. She will not be our last. Humanity learned something important from our history, war leader. We learned patience. We learned to plan for the long term. While everyone in the galaxy was watching Earth and waiting for us to catch up slowly, we were preparing. Not for conquest, not for war, but for survival. He leaned forward slightly. We have seen what happens to weak species in this galaxy. They get ignored. They get pushed around. Sometimes they get conquered. We decided we would not be weak. We would not be victims. We would be strong enough that no one could threaten us. But we also decided we would not be bullies. We have had enough of war, enough of conquest. We want to live in peace. But we will only have peace if we are respected. If we are feared just enough that no one wants to test us. Kraz was quiet for a long time. Jihoon waited. He could see the war leader thinking, calculating. Finally, Kraz spoke again. His whole tone had changed. Captain Park, I think the Vorath Empire has been too aggressive recently. I think we need to reconsider our approach to galactic politics. Would Earth be interested in discussing diplomatic relations with us? Jihoon allowed himself a small smile. I think that can be arranged, war leader. I will have Ambassador Kang contact your diplomatic corps. Thank you, Captain. I look forward to working with Earth in the future. Kraz nodded respectfully and the transmission ended. After the screen went dark, Lieutenant Daeho Kim turned in his chair to look at his captain. He had a confused expression on his face. Captain, I have a question. Are we really building more carriers? I mean, I saw the construction facilities, but are they all actually building supercarriers? Jihoon's smile became mysterious. The beauty of a good bluff, Lieutenant, is that no one wants to test it. If someone thinks you might have 5 more ships like the Aegis, they are going to assume you do. They are not going to risk attacking to find out. So we might not actually be building them. Daeho looked impressed. I did not say that. Jihoon stood up. What I will say is that those facilities exist. Those construction frames are real. Whether they all become supercarriers or something else, well, that is information Earth Command will decide when to reveal. He walked toward the exit of the bridge. Now take us into a standard orbit. We have a lot of diplomatic work ahead of us. The hard part is not showing your strength. The hard part is using that strength wisely. As the door closed behind him, the bridge crew exchanged glances. Their captain had just changed the entire galaxy with a demonstration and a clever bluff, and somehow they knew this was just the beginning. 3 months had passed since the Aegis demonstration. The galaxy had changed in those 3 months. Earth was no longer seen as a weak newcomer. Now, when human diplomats spoke at the council, other species listened. Really listened. Ambassador Sun-Hee Kang stood in a specially prepared conference room on Nexus Prime. The room was smaller than the main council chamber, designed for more private meetings. Today it hosted an unprecedented gathering. Around the circular table sat representatives from 12 major powers. The Confederation was there, with High Counselor Vexitar himself attending. The Vorath Empire sent war leader Kraz and 3 of his advisors. The Crystalline Collective sent their speaker. The Biomechanical Swarm sent a representative. Even smaller powers who usually stayed quiet had sent delegates. These were species that had been rivals for centuries. Some had even fought wars against each other, but today they sat together at the same table. And the reason they sat together was Earth. Vexitar spoke first. His tone was very different from 3 months ago. Gone was the dismissive attitude. Now he sounded respectful, almost cautious. Ambassador Kang, I think we should speak frankly. Humanity has shown us capabilities that change everything about galactic power structures. The Aegis alone could defeat most of our individual fleets. So we must ask the obvious question. What does Earth want? Sun-Hee stood up. Despite being smaller than most of the beings in the room, her presence filled the space. She had that quality that great diplomats have, the ability to command attention without raising her voice. What we want is simple, she began. We want peace. We want trade. We want mutual protection. Earth has no interest in conquest or domination. We have been there. We have done that. Our own history taught us hard lessons about empire and war. She looked around the table, meeting each representative's eyes. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We had empires that rose and fell. We had wars that killed millions. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times. But we learned. We grew, we united, not because we wanted to conquer the stars, but because we realized that division would destroy us. Now we offer that same unity to you, not unity under Earth's rule. Unity as partners, as equals. Cross leaned forward. And the other carriers? You showed us construction facilities. Are you truly building more supercarriers? Colonel Junho Yun stepped forward. He held a data pad and projected a holographic display over the center of the table. It showed detailed plans and construction timelines. Construction has begun on 4 additional supercarriers, Junho announced. We are naming them the Athena, the Yamato, the Victoria, and the Beijing. Each one will be as powerful as the Aegis. Each one will be assigned to protect a different sector of council space. With your permission, of course. Murmurs ran through the room. Several delegates began talking among themselves. The crystalline representative, whose voice sounded like musical chimes, spoke up. Let me understand this correctly. You would deploy your most powerful weapons to protect our territory? Why would you do this? What do you gain? We gain security, Sun He replied. Think about it. The threats facing this galaxy do not care about borders. The Void Reapers that raid from dark space do not check which species owns a planet before they attack. The hive consciousness spreading from the galactic core does not distinguish between human and alien. She gestured to the holographic display, changing it to show a star map with dangerous zones marked in red. These threats require unity. They require cooperation. If we protect your space and you protect ours, we are all safer. If we share resources and intelligence, we all benefit. While the negotiations continued on Nexus Prime, Captain Jihoon was aboard the Aegis dealing with a different kind of diplomatic challenge. Chief Diplomat Yuna Park appeared in his ready room as a hologram. She looked troubled. Captain, the negotiations are going well overall, but we have a complication. The Confederation has requested detailed technical specifications for the Aegis. Jihoon frowned. For what purpose? They want to build their own version. Several species do, actually. Yuna pulled up a list on her data pad. They are offering technology trades. The Confederation will give us their shield generator technology. If we give them our carrier designs, the Crystalline Collective will share their FTL drive improvements for our fighter schematics. The list goes on. And what does Earth Command say about this? They are considering it. But Captain, if we share this technology, we lose our advantage. The Aegis and her sister ships give us power in the galaxy. Without that advantage, we become just another species again. But if we refuse to share, we risk being seen as selfish, as dangerous. Jihoon stood and walked to the viewport. Below, he could see Nexus Prime rotating slowly. It was a beautiful planet, home to billions of beings. They were depending on the decisions being made right now. Diplomat Park, do you know what our real advantage is? Sir, it is not the carriers. It is not the weapons or the fighters or the technology. Our real advantage is that we remember what it is like to be alone, to be vulnerable. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we learned to work together. We know the cost of division. He turned back to face her hologram. Tell Earth Command I recommend limited technology sharing. We give them the basic carrier framework, the hull design, the general systems. But we keep the critical systems secret. The weapon targeting systems, the armor composition, the fighter launch mechanisms. Let them build their own supercarriers, he continued. But make sure those carriers need regular maintenance from Earth. Make sure the advanced components have to be purchased from human manufacturers. Make sure they understand that their ships work better when they cooperate with us. Yuna smiled slowly. Create dependencies while building trust. Exactly. The galaxy does not need humanity as conquerors. It needs us as partners. But partners who cannot be easily discarded. Partners who are essential. A sudden chime interrupted them. Commander Minji's voice came through the comm system. She sounded urgent. Captain, you need to come to the bridge immediately. Long-range sensors have detected something at the edge of the system. Something big. On my way. Jihoon looked at Yuna. Keep me informed about the negotiations. As he rushed toward the bridge, Jihoon felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The demonstration of the Aegis had been meant to show Earth's strength to the galaxy. But what if it had attracted attention from something else? Something beyond the Council? Something that saw the Aegis not as a deterrent but as a challenge? He reached the bridge and immediately saw what Minji was worried about. On the main view screen at the very edge of sensor range, space itself seemed to be tearing open. A massive rift was forming, purple and black, with lightning crackling around its edges. "What is that?" he asked, though part of him already knew the answer. Lieutenant Daeho checked his console, his face pale. "Captain, the energy signature matches old records. Very old records. From before the council was formed." He looked up at Jihoon. "Sir, I think those are the Void Reapers." Jihoon felt his blood run cold. The Void Reapers were legends. Ancient enemies that had terrorized the galaxy thousands of years ago. They came from outside normal space, from the dark regions between galactic arms. They attacked without warning, destroyed without mercy, and disappeared before anyone could organize a defense. The Council had not faced them in over 2,000 years. Most species thought they were gone, extinct, or maybe just myths. They were not myths, and now they were coming through that rift, drawn perhaps by the energy signature of the Aegis, or maybe just by bad timing. Either way, Earth was about to face its first real test. The demonstration had been impressive, but this was going to be actual combat, real war, and the galaxy was watching. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. It floated in orbit around Nexus Prime, a beautiful planet with purple oceans and green continents. The chamber itself was a massive ring made of crystal and metal. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in a huge circular room. The ceiling was clear, showing the stars above. Today, all of them were looking at the giant view screen that dominated one wall. The screen showed empty space. Well, not completely empty. There were some asteroids floating around and stars in the background. But there were no ships, no fleet. Nothing impressive at all. High Counselor Vextar clicked his mandibles together. He was a tall, insect-like creature with 4 arms. He sounded annoyed and a little bit amused. "The humans asked us to witness their military strength. How cute. Perhaps they finally built a real warship. Where is it?" Many of the other counselors laughed. They had been dealing with Earth for 50 years now. The humans were nice enough, but they were so far behind everyone else in technology. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were weak. Most species thought it would take humans at least another century to catch up. Ambassador Sun Hee Kang stood at the human platform. She was a small woman with gray hair tied back in a tight bun. She wore a simple blue uniform. Next to her stood Colonel Jun Ho Yoon, a tall man with a serious face and military medals on his chest. Both of them looked completely calm. War Leader Kraz stepped forward. He was massive, even for his species. The Vorath were warriors, 7 feet tall with thick armor-like skin. Kraz had led armies that conquered dozens of planets. His voice was deep and threatening. "Ambassador Kang, we are busy people. We do not have time for games. Where is this fleet you promised to show us? We see nothing but rocks and empty space." Sun Hee smiled. It was a small, mysterious smile. "You are looking right at it, War Leader." Confusion spread through the chamber. Several counselors leaned forward in their seats. Others activated their own screens to look closer. The Vorath delegation started talking among themselves. What was she talking about? There was nothing there. Then something impossible happened. The stars moved. Or rather, something that looked like stars moved. One of the asteroids on the screen flickered. For just a moment, it seemed to glitch like a broken hologram. Then the image disappeared completely. What replaced it made the entire chamber fall silent. The Aegis appeared. It materialized right in front of them as its optical camouflage shut down. The ship was so massive that it filled the entire view screen. No, that was wrong. The ship was so massive that the view screen could not show all of it. They could only see part of it. And that part was already bigger than any warship in the known galaxy. 12 kilometers long. That number did not really capture how enormous it was. The largest Confederation battleship was only 2 kilometers. The Vorath Empire's flagship was 3. This human ship was 4 times bigger than that. It was a flying city, covered in weapons and armor that seemed to shimmer and change in the light. The design was unlike anything they had seen. Most alien ships were smooth and curved, built for speed and elegance. The Aegis looked like a fortress. Its hull was covered in angular armor plates that overlapped like scales. Weapon turrets dotted every surface. The front of the ship had a sharp, aggressive shape like the prow of an ancient warship. At the back, massive engines glowed with contained power. Vextar's mandibles stopped clicking. His voice came out as barely a whisper. Impossible. That ship is larger than our entire home fleet. How did they build something like that? On the bridge of the Aegis, Captain Ji-hoon sat in his command chair. He watched the council chamber through his own view screen. He could see the shock on their faces. Good. That was exactly the reaction he wanted. Commander Lee. Launch the demonstration package. Launching now, Captain. Minji pressed several buttons on her console. All along the sides of the Aegis, hundreds of hangar bay doors began to open. They had expected to see some fighters come out. Maybe a dozen, maybe 50 if the humans were really trying to impress them. They were not prepared for what actually happened. Fighters poured out of the Aegis like a swarm of angry bees. Hundreds of them. Then 1,000. Then 2,000. They kept coming, wave after wave, launching from different parts of the enormous ship. Each fighter was sleek and deadly-looking, painted in dark gray with blue lights along the wings. Navigator Hyuna Choi called out from her station. Squadron leaders reporting ready, Captain. All 5,000 fighters deployed and holding formation. 5,000 fighters. From a single ship. Most species considered it impressive if a carrier could launch 50. The humans had just launched 100 times that number. The council chamber was no longer quiet. Everyone was shouting. Some were standing up from their seats. Others were activating their communicators to call their home governments. Several delegations were demanding to know how this was possible. The Crystalline Collective's representative, a being made of living crystal, spoke in a voice like chimes. This changes everything. One ship with that many fighters could control an entire sector of space. The biomechanical swarm sent a message through their hive mind speaker. We calculate that ship could engage and defeat our entire fleet. Probability of our victory, less than 3%. Ambassador Sunhee waited for the noise to die down a little. Then she spoke again, her voice cutting through the chaos. That is not all. Would you like to see her weapon systems? She did not wait for anyone to answer. Colonel Junho pressed a button on his datapad. On the Aegis, more systems activated. The massive ship slowly rotated. As it turned, it revealed weapon arrays that ran along its entire length. Railgun batteries, each turret the size of a small building. Energy weapon ports that glowed with barely contained power. And missile tubes, thousands of missile tubes, each one capable of launching weapons that could destroy a small moon. The weapons were not like the elegant energy weapons most species used. They looked brutal and efficient. They looked like they were designed by people who understood war very, very well. War leader Kraz had stopped being aggressive. His voice was quiet, almost afraid. By the ancestors, that single ship could conquer half the galaxy. The Vorath were warriors. They prided themselves on their military strength. They had the largest fleet in the council, or they thought they did. One look at the Aegis made it clear that humans had surpassed them. By a lot. Sunhee turned to face Kraz directly. Or defend it, war leader. Earth does not want to conquer anyone. We have seen what conquest does. We spent thousands of years fighting each other on our own planet. We learned our lessons. We are done with conquest. She looked around at all the counselors. We want peace. We want trade. We want to be part of this galactic community. But we also want respect. We want to be treated as equals, not as primitives who need to be protected or ignored. Her voice grew stronger. Earth stands ready to join you. We can help defend against threats like the Vorath aggression. We can patrol sectors of space that are too dangerous or too remote for others. We can build more ships like the Aegis and station them where they are needed. The question is not whether humanity is strong enough to join the Council. We have just proven that we are. The question is, are you ready to accept us as equals? The silence that followed was very different from the silence at the beginning. Before, they had been quiet because they were bored and dismissive. Now they were quiet because they were shocked and impressed, and maybe a little bit scared. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The celebrations lasted for 3 days. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had prepared for extinction now rejoiced in survival. Monuments were built. Songs were written. The date of the victory became a universal holiday. But in the council chambers, a different conversation was taking place. High Curator Velthar called an emergency session. The chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. The topic was simple but terrifying. What do we do about the humans? They had saved the galaxy, yes. But in doing so, They had revealed capabilities that made them the most dangerous species alive. Scholar Primesh presented a detailed analysis. Humans had defeated an enemy that destroyed 4 previous galactic civilizations. They did it with inferior technology and smaller numbers. They did it through chaos, aggression, and a refusal to accept defeat. If humans could do that to the Voidborn, what could they do to the Council? Some Council members argued for immediate action, reimpose the restrictions, limit human expansion, build defensive stations around Earth. Others said that approach had already failed. The restrictions had created resentment. Trying again would only make humans angry, and angry humans, as they had just seen, were very dangerous. Ambassador Young-Soo Choi was invited to address the Council. For the first time, he stood at the center platform as an equal, not a supplicant. He looked at the faces around him. Some showed gratitude, some showed fear, many showed both. He understood their concerns. Humans were frightening. Even he found his own species frightening sometimes. Young-Soo spoke carefully. He acknowledged that humans were aggressive and violent. Earth's history was full of war and bloodshed, but it was also full of cooperation and compassion. Humans fought fiercely, but they also protected fiercely. They destroyed their enemies, but they died for their friends. The same traits that made them dangerous also made them loyal. He proposed a new framework. Instead of trying to control humanity, embrace them as the galaxy's defenders. Let humans do what they did best. Humans would patrol the dangerous regions, respond to threats, and maintain military readiness. In return, humans would receive full council membership and equal rights. They would be partners, not servants. The debate lasted for weeks. Velthar was reluctant. The idea of giving humans more power seemed dangerous. But Rathkor supported Young-Soo's proposal. The Draxan commander had fought alongside humans. He had seen their honor in battle. They could have turned on the council during the chaos. They did not. They fought to protect everyone, even species that had treated them with contempt. Primesh added historical perspective. Every great civilization needed warriors. The council had tried to eliminate that need through overwhelming force and peaceful evolution. But the Voidborn proved that some threats could not be negotiated with. Some enemies had to be fought. And fighting required warriors. Humans were the warriors the galaxy needed. Dr. Hayrin Park was asked to present her research on human psychology. She explained why humans were violent but not evil. Human aggression evolved as a survival tool. It helped them compete with stronger predators, survive harsh environments, and protect their families. That aggression was controlled by equally strong emotions of empathy and cooperation. Humans would fight to the death for people they cared about. They would sacrifice themselves for strangers if they believed it was right. They were capable of terrible violence, yes, but they were also capable of incredible kindness. The key was giving them a cause worth fighting for. The council could be that cause. The vote was called. It was not unanimous. Some species still voted against human integration, but the majority supported it. Humanity was granted full council membership. All restrictions were permanently lifted. Earth and its colonies were given the same rights as any other member world. And humans were formally designated as the galaxy's primary military force. When the announcement was made, cheers erupted in human settlements across the galaxy. On Earth, billions of people celebrated. They had gone from restricted newcomers to equal partners in less than a year. It was a transformation that changed everything. Daewon was promoted to Fleet Admiral. He now commanded a joint task force of human and alien vessels. His mission was to patrol the galactic rim and respond to any new threats. The Indomitable became the flagship of the largest mobile fleet in Council history. Daewon looked at his new command and felt pride mixed with responsibility. This was what humanity had worked toward. This was their place in the galaxy. Jiwoo was given an even more interesting assignment. She would establish combat training academies across Council space. Alien warriors would learn human tactics, not to replace their own methods but to add to them. Flexibility, adaptability, and controlled chaos would become part of galactic military doctrine. Jiwoo smiled when she received the orders. She would finally get to teach the galaxy how to fight properly. Hayrin continued her research, but now she worked with teams from dozens of species. They studied how different civilizations could learn from each other. Her most important project was developing integration programs. How could aggressive humans work alongside peaceful aliens? How could both sides benefit from their differences? It was challenging work, but she loved it. Young-Soo became co-chair of the Council's Security Committee. He worked with Velthar, who had become surprisingly cooperative after the war. The old curator admitted that his species had become too rigid, too comfortable. The Voidborn crisis taught them that survival required adaptation, and humans were masters of adaptation. Not everything was smooth. Some council species remained suspicious of humans. There were incidents and conflicts. A human mining crew fought with alien workers over territorial rights. A diplomatic mission went badly when human directness offended a species that valued elaborate courtesy. Young-Soo spent a lot of time smoothing over these problems. But slowly understanding grew. Aliens learned that human aggression was not random or cruel. Humans learned that alien caution was not weakness or cowardice. They were simply different approaches to survival, both valid in their own way. The galaxy became richer for having both. 5 years after the Voidborn War, Daewon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched a joint patrol exercise. Human ships flew alongside Draxan warships, Keithrellan scouts, and Lumen energy vessels. The formation was a mix of human chaos and alien precision. It was beautiful in its own way. His second-in-command was a Draxan named Kethral. They had fought together in 3 different engagements against pirates and rebels. Kethral had learned to appreciate human unpredictability. Daewon had learned to value Draxan honor. They made a good team. Scholar Primesh visited the ship often. The energy being was writing a comprehensive history of the Voidborn War. It interviewed survivors, analyzed battle data, and studied the social changes that followed. The book would take decades to complete, but Primesh had time. The scholar wanted to ensure that future generations understood what had happened and why. The final chapter would focus on a simple truth. The galaxy had called humans primitive and dangerous. They were right. But they had forgotten that primitive did not mean inferior. Dangerous did not mean evil. Humans had preserved traits that other species had evolved away, and when those traits were needed most, they saved everyone. New threats still emerged. Pirates attacked trade routes. Rebels challenged council authority. Strange anomalies appeared in deep space. But now the galaxy was ready. Human rapid response teams deployed to trouble spots. Joint task forces combined human aggression with alien technology. Every problem was met with confidence backed by capability. Earth itself became a hub of military innovation. Council scientists came to study human warfare tactics. Human engineers learned alien technologies. The exchange benefited everyone. Weapons became more effective. Strategies became more flexible. The galaxy's defenses grew stronger every year. On a quiet day, Daewon received a message from Velthar. The High Curator wanted to meet privately. When they spoke, Velthar did something unexpected. It apologized. The Council had been wrong about humanity. They had judged humans by their history without understanding their potential. That mistake almost cost everyone everything. Daewon accepted the apology gracefully. He understood why the Council had been afraid. Humans were frightening. Even he knew that. But fear could lead to understanding, and understanding could lead to cooperation. That was the real lesson of the Voidborn War. Years turned into decades. The generation that fought the Voidborn grew old. Their children and grandchildren grew up in a galaxy where humans and aliens worked together naturally. The old fears faded. The old prejudices died with those who held them. New relationships were built on respect rather than suspicion. Humanity never forgot where they came from. They remembered being underestimated and restricted. They remembered fighting for survival. But they also remembered being given a chance to prove themselves. That memory shaped how they treated other species. When new civilizations joined the Council, humans welcomed them and helped them adapt. The galaxy had learned its lesson. True strength came not from eliminating differences but from embracing them. Humanity's violent nature was not a flaw to be corrected. It was a strength to be directed toward protection rather than conquest. The bridge of the Aegis hummed with controlled energy. Every screen showed different information. Every officer was focused on their task. But everyone kept glancing at the main view screen, where the rift in space continued to grow larger. Commander Minji stared at her readings. Her voice was grim. 3 ships coming through, capital class, each one approximately 6 kilometers long. Behind them, dozens of smaller craft. Maybe 50, maybe more. They are still coming through the rift. Captain Jihoon studied the alien vessels on the screen. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. black as space itself, covered in sharp angles and spikes. They looked like they were designed to inspire fear. They looked like they were designed to kill. Communications Officer Borum. What is Nexus? Prime Command sang. Borum Song looked up from her console. Sir, they are evacuating the orbital stations. The Council fleet is moving to intercept, but... She trailed off. The meaning was clear. The Council fleet looked very small compared to what was coming. The Council had never really needed a large military. Most of their conflicts were settled through diplomacy or small skirmishes. Their ships were good for patrol and police work. But they were not built for a war like this. Ji-hoon made his decision quickly. Sound battle stations. Chief Engineer Taiyang. I need every system at maximum power. Lieutenant Daeho, arm all weapons. Navigator Hyuna, plot attack vectors. Minji, contact the Council fleet. Tell them to form up behind us. We will take the lead. Orders were carried out with speed and precision. The crew had trained for years for this moment. They were ready. Yuna looked at her calculations. Her voice was steady, but Ji-hoon could hear the tension underneath. Captain, based on the numbers, we are facing 3 capital ships to our 1. Fighter count is approximately 50-1 against us. Then it is a good thing we brought 5,000 of our own fighters, Ji-hoon replied. He opened the shipwide communications channel. His voice went to every crew member on the Aegis. All hands, this is the captain. Today we face an enemy that has terrorized this galaxy for thousands of years. The Void Reapers see civilizations as prey. They see us as weak. They are about to learn why humanity survived every challenge our own planet threw at us. Today we show them that Earth protects its friends. All fighter squadrons, launch immediately. The Aegis transformed before their eyes. All along her massive hull, hangar bay doors opened. From each opening, fighters began to pour out into space. Wave after wave after wave. The star field around the Aegis filled with human fighters, each one piloted by someone who had volunteered for this. Each one ready to fight. Squadron leader Ji-won Cho led the first wave. Her fighter was nimble and fast, equipped with the latest human technology. She opened a channel to all wings. All squadrons, this is Alpha Leader. Stay in formation. Remember your training. These aliens do not know about humans yet. Let us teach them. The Void Reaper fighters came at them like a dark cloud. Their movements were fast and aggressive, designed to overwhelm with numbers. They had probably used these same tactics for millennia. They had probably never failed before. But human pilots had trained against advanced AI for years. AI that learned from every mistake. AI that adapted to every tactic. These alien pilots, terrifying as they looked, fought with predictable patterns. Ji-won rolled her fighter in a complex maneuver, came up behind 3 enemy craft and fired. The mass drivers on her fighter spat out solid projectiles at incredible speed. The Void Reaper ships had shields designed to absorb energy weapons. Those shields were useless against solid metal traveling at relativistic speeds. 3 alien fighters exploded in quick succession. 3 down, Ji-won called out. Around her, the space battle lit up with impacts and explosions as human fighters tore through the enemy formation. On the Aegis bridge, Daeho was grinning despite the danger. Captain, their shields are completely useless against our kinetic weapons. Our fighters are destroying them faster than I can count. Do not get overconfident, Ji-hoon warned. Those capital ships are a different problem. Bring us around. Target the lead vessel with all main railgun batteries. The massive Aegis rotated with surprising grace. Along her spine, 16 enormous railgun turrets locked onto the nearest Void Reaper capital ship. Each turret was the size of a building. Each one held enough destructive power to crack a small moon. Target locked, Daeho reported. Fire. The Aegis shuddered as all 16 railguns fired at once. Tungsten rods, each one massive and moving at a fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the target in seconds. The sound inside the ship was like thunder. The visual effect was like watching lightning strike in reverse. The enemy ship's shields lit up, trying to stop the incoming projectiles. They held for perhaps 2 seconds. Then they collapsed completely. The railgun rounds punched through the alien hull like it was paper. Explosions bloomed along the enemy ship's length. Atmosphere vented into space. The massive vessel began to break apart. In the council chamber on Nexus Prime, representatives, who had stayed behind to observe, watched in stunned silence. The view screens showed the battle in detail. They saw human fighters dancing through enemy formations. They saw the Aegis destroying a capital ship that had terrified the galaxy for thousands of years. High Counselor Vextar could barely speak. How are they winning so easily? Ambassador Sunhee stood near the windows, watching the distant flashes of battle. She smiled slightly. Because humanity learned to fight against impossible odds long before we reached the stars. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. We survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions. We survived diseases and famines. We survived our own tendency to destroy ourselves. She turned to face the counselors. These Void Reapers are dangerous, yes. But to us? They are just another challenge, just another problem to solve. And humans are very, very good at solving problems. Aboard the Aegis, the battle continued. The remaining 2 Void Reaper capital ships realized they were losing and tried to retreat back through the rift. But the Council fleet, encouraged by what they had witnessed, moved to cut off their escape route. Working together, human and alien ships finished what the Aegis had started. It took another hour, but eventually the last enemy craft was destroyed. The rift closed. The immediate threat was over. Jihoon slumped in his chair, exhausted. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him tired. Damage report. Hull integrity at 94%, Taeyang reported. Minor damage to Hangar Bay 3. Some burned-out shield emitters. We need repairs, but nothing critical. Casualties? Minji checked her console. Her expression became somber. 14 fighters lost. We have wounded personnel in the medical bay. No deaths on the main ship. But those 14 pilots. She did not finish. Jihoon bowed his head for a moment. 14 people who had volunteered to defend not just Earth, but the entire council. 14 heroes who would not be going home. He would make sure their families knew they died protecting billions of lives. He looked up. Get me Ambassador Kang. Sunhee's image appeared on the screen. Behind her, the council chamber was celebrating. Alien species that usually argued were hugging each other. Some were crying tears of relief. The mood was completely different from an hour ago. Captain Park, Sunhee said with a smile. It seems you have made quite an impression. Again. How are the negotiations going, Ambassador? She laughed. It was a sound of pure relief and joy. I think we can safely say Earth has been accepted as a full member of the Galactic Council. In fact, they are asking if we can position the other carriers as soon as possible. Everyone wants an Aegis protecting their sector now. Tell them the Athena will be ready in 6 months. The others will follow on schedule. And Earth? What should I tell them about Earth's role going forward? Jihoon looked out at the stars. He looked at the debris field that had been a Void Reaper invasion force. He looked at the council ships forming a protective formation around Nexus Prime. Tell them Earth is ready to do what we do best: survive, adapt, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and never, ever give up. 2 years passed. 5 human supercarriers now stood guard over different sectors of council space. The Aegis remained at Nexus Prime, a symbol of humanity's commitment to their new allies. More carriers were under construction. With them came technology sharing, cultural exchanges, and a new era of cooperation. The Void Reapers tried to attack twice more. Both times they were defeated, repelled by coordinated defense forces that combined human technology with alien knowledge. On Earth, in the secret facility where Project Aegis had begun, engineers were already designing the next generation. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all: peace was wonderful. Peace was worth fighting for, but peace could only be maintained from a position of strength. Jihoon, now promoted to Admiral and Commander of the entire Earth, Defense Fleet, stood before the newly commissioned Aegis II. The ship was even more advanced than the original. He felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. The galaxy had watched in shock when Earth revealed her secret. They had watched in fear when they saw what humans could build. But now they watched, with gratitude as humanity took its place as one of the great powers.